Hey you guys, so we are still in chapter 2. We're working with multiplying numbers. We've been doing partial products, exponents, prime factorization. Now we get to something that's fun that's called estimating products. So this relates back to the lesson where I talked about patterns with multiplication. We get to use our patterns trick. I call it the zeros trick. With any number that is followed by zeros, it's an easier way to multiply a big number. So it's kind of like using mental math. And they talk about using compatible numbers. What does compatible mean? It means numbers that work well together, that are easy to compute, easy to solve. So for example, if I had the problem 12 times 8, because this chapter is asking us to estimate, that's the same thing as round, I'm going to round these numbers so that they're compatible. I want an easier multiplication fact. I want easier numbers to multiply so that I could just use a pattern trick and do it in my head. So how we do that is we round. So how do we round? Remember that if it's closer to its 10 or its 100 or its 1,000, you're rounding up or down to basically to a power of 10. So 12 is closer to 10, and I'll show that on a number line. So if I have 12, the numbers surrounding it would be a 10 and a 20, right? So 12 is definitely closer to 10 because it only takes 2 spots to get to, or it takes, 2 places to get to the 10, as opposed to 8 spots to get to 20, okay? So 12 is closer to 10, so it rounds down to a 10. And then how about my 8? Is 8 closer to a 10 or closer to 0? Again, you're thinking of what powers of 10 are surrounding it. So here's my 8, here's a 10, here's a 0. 8 is way closer to 10, so I get to round that up to a 10. And then I multiply. So remember our patterns. Take the digits out front and multiply them. 1 times 1 is 1, and how many zeros do you have? You have 2. So your estimated product is 100. Now, why did we do all of that? Basically, they are teaching us that we can estimate what our product will be to make sure that we did it right. So estimating is a fun way by saying 12 times 8 might be close to 100. So let's see if it is. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 1 is 9. And look at that, 96 is very close to 100. And if I round 96, it would round up to 100. So let's do another example. So again, we are rounding our numbers, which is so fun, to find a compatible group of numbers to multiply together so that I can just do my zeros trick and move right along. Let's go ahead and try 68 times 7. So let's round both of them. 68. So what is 68 in between? This is the important part to know how to round. I have 68. What surrounds them? I have 70, and then below 68 is a 60. 68 is closer to 70 because it's only 2 places away from 70. So 68 is going to round to a 70. And then what is my 7 going to round to? What is 7 closer to? Is 7 closer to 10 or is it closer to my 0? It's definitely closer to 10 because it's only 3 spots away. So this is going to round up to a 10. So my new equation, you guys are creating a new equation. How fun is that? My new estimated product is going to be 70 times 10. So take the 2 digits out front, 7 times 1, which is 7, and then you have 2 zeros. So my answer should be around 700 if I multiply this out. Let's check and see if that's correct. So another thing before I do that I want to make sure that you understand is that we have to round to the correct number. So let me go back a little bit. If I'm rounding 68, notice that I found the powers of 10 that surround 68. So I'm looking for the 10s, right? The 70, which is above 68, and right below 68 is a 60. And then 8 is only 2 spots away from 70 as opposed to 8 spots away from 60. So 68 rounds up to a 70, okay? And same thing with 7. 5 is right in between, and then we have 0. So 7 is between the powers of 0 and 10. What's it closest to? 7 is a lot closer to 10, so that's why I have to round up to a 10. And I actually want to do another example and show you that. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do 106 times 52. Okay, that seems like a really big multiplication problem, but again, if it says estimate the product and find compatible numbers, we can just round the numbers and say, oh, it's going to be about this because we're rounding it. So 106, what is 106 surrounded by? It's around 110 and 100. Well, it's a lot closer, and I'm sorry, not 110, 200. Well, it's a lot closer to 100. So this is going to round to 100. And then my 52, where is 52 sitting on a number line? It's really close to 50 and kind of close to 60, but it's a lot closer to my 50. So this rounds to a 50. Now I can multiply. 1 times 5 is 5, and I have 3 total zeros. So my answer will be around 500, okay? Let's see if we rounded correctly, because again, you still have to round correctly. You can't just round it to some random number. That's why using number lines is really helpful. If I did this correctly, my true answer should be close to 500. So let's see, 106 times 52. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1, and 2 times 1 is 2. Put your placeholder. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 0 is 0, plus 3 is 3, and 5 times 1 is 5. And I forgot my 0 up here now that I'm checking it. Oops. So I got 5,512. That's pretty close to 5,000. And I'm sorry, I forgot my 3 threes there with our answer. So it is pretty close. So we rounded accurately. Let's do another one. I love this too because sometimes rounding is just really a lot easier with bigger numbers. So let's do an even bigger one. 729 times 42. Okay, 42. Is that closer to 40 or 50? It's closer to 40. 729. Is that closer to 700 or 800? Definitely 700. Okay, and then I'm going to multiply it. What's 7 times 4? That's 28. And how many zeros? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So our answer might come out to something around 28,000. And that's essentially all you're doing for this lesson if it asks you to estimate the products and work with compatible numbers. I hope that was a good lesson for you guys, some good tips on how to use patterns, and just make sure that you're rounding properly so that you get the right answer.